Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, podcast fans of all ages. I'm Dave Valente, and thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. Joe is trying to join us, and he's getting the spinning ball of death. So hopefully he's using the right invite tonight. But we'll get him on as soon as possible. Joining us, as always, Dan the Man Fishman. How you doing, sir?
What's shaking, man? How was your turkey?
It was very good. It was very good. It was very moist.
Nice. Hot
Yes.
and moist is the right way to have it.
Yes, hot and moist.
The
a very tasty breast.
and did you just do a breast or did you do a whole breast?
I just did a breast. It was just myself and Olia tonight, that night. So didn't want to go overboard and cook a whole turkey or anything. But yeah, it was good stuff. Good to see you, Janice. How you doing?
Joe Dean. Is Joe Dean here? I did not color my hair, but I washed it, which is an unusual.
There you go. He didn't wash his hair. He changed the oil.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what happened. I don't normally take a shower this late in the evening, but I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow morning at 8:00, and so I showered now with the idea that
but you're fresh from the road, right? You just came back from Massachusetts, right?
I came back. I drove back yesterday. I wanted to be home in time for the Texas show, for the Texas game.
There you go.
It was pretty good, all things considered. The drive back was terrible. It wasn't just Boston traffic. It was like just traffic everywhere. Getting across W in New York.
It is like the busiest travel weekend of the year, right? I mean, it's
Yep. I've never
the roadways.
I've never really experienced bad road traffic, except for the day that we left Boston permanently. But this was, excuse me, as bad as I've seen. Bad on the Jersey Turnpike, bad around New York, and then bad around Baltimore. I actually got routed south through Delaware and across the Bay Bridge instead of going around Baltimore and DC. So I made it home. It was a 10-hour drive. But
how many hours does it usually take?
Normally it's 8 hours to the Cape.
Okay.
So it's 2 hours longer. And when I first started going here and I was driving back and forth in the Infinity, it was a 7-hour drive, which is awesome. But I mean, I really would drive fast in the Infinity, and I can't drive fast in the truck.
Yeah, I mean,
I did. Let's give a shout out to Obi, who since our show, Obi hooked me up over the course of the year. Obi has been hooking me up with a variety of tools from his place in Falmouth, and gave me a post holder and some attachments for my power tools for dust collection. Anybody who's done woodwork knows that dust collection is a big deal in a shop, and so I'm very happy to have those. And I spent today putting them in, and I'm going to be using them very quickly because I need to make some adaptations to the chicken coop. It's not cold, but it's colder here than it has been in a long time. And I have a couple of thermometers. And last night, when it was 24 degrees out, the thermometer that was on the floor was 26 degrees. The thermometer that was 6 inches up was 36 degrees. And the thermometer that was up on the roost level was 40 degrees. And I have a heater in the thing. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
What's up, Joe?
Great. Better late than never, guys.
Yeah, no worries.
Yep. I actually have a better late than never joke, but I'll save it for comic relief further down the road. Anyway, so that was the essence of my Thanksgiving and travel. I'm happy to be back, and guys, I'm very flattered that you all noticed that I have clean hair as opposed to the dirty hair that I normally show up with. You know what it is? I think it's this sexy jean shirt that people are noticing.
There you go.
Yeah, the extra
sexy
hair, stuff like that, and it has it's a really nice LL Bean with the flannel lining too. So it's super warm, a great work shirt, great hang out around the house shirt, and now it's going to be a great radio shirt.
Nice.
Well, I got This is my shirt. I want to use it for
Yep. Ho-Q.
fuck you. Yeah, fuck you.
Faux-Q. I see.
Or fuck you.
Fuck you. Yes, I like it. I like it. And I like the idea of that as a branch of food, that there would be barbecue that was, or pho that was served with barbecue meat in it.
Well, they do use, when you do banh mi sandwiches, which is one of my favorite Vietnamese things, is they use a barbecue pork in there. So if you just use barbecue pork, you are actually having fuck you. So there you go. All right. So I wanted to start tonight because we've had this in the hopper for. I'm trying not to blow everybody's ears out here. We've had this in the hopper for probably since August. I think we set this as our next country. So there are 3 countries in the world that are enclave nations, and we featured 2 of them. We did San Marino, and we've done Vatican City. Both of those are in Italy. The third one,
for the viewer, what is an enclave nation?
it is a nation that is completely surrounded without any water, like an ocean boundary or anything like that. That is completely surrounded by another country. So,
It's
in the case of San Marino, and they're landlocked and they're surrounded completely by another country and just one other country. So, San Marino is that way with Italy. So is the Vatican City.
And the third one,
Adam's got it, and Daryl's got it. Lesotho is the country that we're featuring tonight. It is a landlocked, completely surrounded by the country of South Africa. It is a kingdom, and we will do a little short video showing some of the beautiful scenery of the tiny nation of Lesotho. All right, so this is the flag of Lesotho. It's a very cool flag. I love the colors and the little hat symbol there. In the background, you hear the national anthem of Lesotho. Beautiful falls. Just stunning. It is the one, I think, the factoid that I've got from this country is that it is the country that has the highest low point on the planet. So its lowest point is higher than any other country's.
I think it was also voted country most likely to be mistaken for Wakanda.
Wakanda, yeah, Wakanda forever.
Wakanda, yes.
Or what was the country in Coming to America?
I don't remember.
Because it was a kingdom as well. But let's see. Let's talk about Lesotho. It is a kingdom. And the king has actually a lot more power in the country than most other, when you think about the traditional European kingdoms now. Kings have constitutional powers, and to an extent, the kingdom of Lesotho is not as strong as, say, Swaziland or Eswatini, but it does have a little bit more power than your traditional European monarchies. King Letsie III is the current king of the Kingdom of Lesotho. It is a country that is slightly smaller than Maryland. So Dan and I both know Maryland. We're on opposite ends of the state, but it's so slightly smaller than that. But it's it's still a pretty sizable country when you think about that. The agriculture, pasture land, diamonds are the top economic drivers of the country. Most of the country is engaged in either pasture or agricultural pursuits. Maseru is the capital of the country. There's 2.2 million people, which makes it 147th on the list of nations, about 201 or so nations that they have in the rankings there. The language is called Sesotho. The people are called Basotho. Country is called Lesotho. So Sotho is the kind of the root of the people of the country. English is also widely spoken since it was a colony of the UK. It was called Basotho Land, land of the Basothos,
Right.
during colonial times until 1966.
Yes, I'll say a little bit. It was a protectorate the Lesotoans were worried about the Dutch and the South African colony growing up, and so they
Yep.
made an alliance with Queen Victoria. It
Yes.
wasn't that it wasn't a traditional English colony where they occupy it and then settle it and try to change you into England.
Yeah, and it became more important as the apartheid really took hold in South Africa, that it maintained its independence from the rest of South Africa, and South Africa kind of took a hint from what the British did, and they tried to create little homelands in South Africa to really separate the African citizens there that
An apartheid model.
Transkei, Siski, Venda, Bophuthatswana, those four, they tried to make independent nations and nobody ever recognized them. So, but Lesotho was independent in 1966. Let's see, they're a parliamentary constitutional monarchy. They have a bicameral legislature. The Senate is made up of 22 tribal chiefs and 11 additional senators appointed by the king. National Assembly is 120 members. 80 of those are elected via first past the post single member districts, and then the rest are done from the 40 additional are done from a proportional representation party list vote throughout the country. Prime Minister right now is Samuel Metekana, and the national dish of the country is called pap pap, and it's a stiff corn porridge that they cube and mix into different things like soups and stuff. And what you're seeing in the middle of the flag here is called the Mokorotlo. Mokorotlo is a hat. It's a straw hat that is traditionally worn by Basotho people, and so they made that as part of their symbol. This is the second national flag of Lesotho. The original one was scrapped in favor of this one. So, so that is the country of Lesotho. We will
Exciting.
bring in our. It's so exciting.
Daryl pointed out that I like some of these comments here. First of all,
I
Daryl
see.
about Zamunda is indeed the movie from Coming to America.
Yes, Zamunda.
Yep. And then, of course, Adam's idea that maybe Angela McArdle could be appointed as ambassador to Lesotho ties directly into the fact that
We don't want to end up in a war, man. Damn.
Jared Kushner was just appointed ambassador to France.
Oh, really?
Yep. Post previously held by other notables such as Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin.
Well,
footsteps to fill.
Yeah. I don't think Trump could nominate anybody on that level. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, Lesotho is, and Joe, you get the actual choice of the next country that we'll talk about. Whatever country you wish to talk about, I'll make up a video for it next time we have a free for all Sunday.
Okay,
yeah, but and you don't have to decide right this second.
Sounds good.
Yeah. But yeah, the Lesotho, it's got an interesting history. You know, most of the people live near the borders. Maseru is kind of close to the border, and they do work. A lot of them do work in South Africa and send remittances home, or they come back and forth across the border to do mining jobs and other labor within South Africa. They're very heavily dependent on South Africa. They're members of any of the regional alliances that South Africa is a member of. Lesotho becomes almost a default member of them. The South African Development Corporation, the African Union, South African Common Market, and things like that. So it's an interesting country. I mean, I think with any of these three countries that we've talked about being completely surrounded by kind of a host country, you have to be completely dependent on these countries when you think about it. I mean, you can't Yeah, you can fly, but you still have to go through their airspace. You can drive, but you have to have good relations with those countries. So heavily dependent
Well,
on
not to
South
mention
Africa.
telecommunications, right?
Yeah, telecom, all that stuff.
Post office, etc. Right? All your wires run through there.
Yep, absolutely.
So it's interesting. They are, they're independent from South Africa, but sort of exist, excuse me, inside of the entire, such as it is, South African economy, hegemony, etc.
Yeah, yeah, and there was, I mean, they were very much more heavily dependent as when the apartheid time was engaged because a lot of the population would go into South Africa to work, which they continued to do. But diamonds and still agriculture provides some level of income for the country. They do have issues with power generation and as any developing nation, keeping
Right.
power in the capital, keeping power in the big cities of the country all the time. So, but yeah, that is Lesotho in a nutshell. Hopefully, we've enlightened you on one of the smaller countries in the world.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, it's free for all Sunday. So pretty much it's not really like fixed to one topic. So, but we
We
can
got
talk about
plenty
the
of
news of
big
the week.
things in the news.
Yeah,
I
we
think,
do.
we have the breaking one of Hunter Biden's pardon that just happened a few minutes
I
ago.
beg your pardon.
Exactly right. It's not surprising, but for the people who don't know, Hunter Biden was found guilty of a weapons violation. He had claimed that he was sober when he applied for a gun, and he clearly was not sober. He was doing drugs both before and after. Yep, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Greg.
I mean, a lot of this stuff is stuff that from our political perspective, is we don't
Right,
think of as a crime.
right.
Um,
We don't think you need to get permission to apply to you have to fill out any paper to get a gun.
or actually have to apply to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but uh,
Beginning. So
Trump said in his pardon that it became clear to him that Hunter was being targeted unfairly for political reasons, and therefore he was going to pardon him, which is, I get it. And he said, I think people will understand how a father would do this, which I get that as well.
but he also said he wouldn't do it.
He did also swear up and down that he would never pardon Hunter Biden. And so, this is, it's interesting actually. There is a website now, I'm loosely involved in it, called Oathbreakers. I'll get the URL in a second. But what we do is we keep track of promises that politicians have made, and then people can vote as to whether or not the politician has backtracked on that promise. And we originally started the site to just keep track of Trump, and specifically, Trump promised to put a libertarian in his cabinet, and so far, most people do not feel like he has lived up to that promise.
I mean, on a technicality.
Well, I think that, yeah, some people will. I mean, there are certainly people who are arguing that Kennedy is a libertarian, or that
He's
Vivek. Yeah,
he's a libertarian in the fact that he paid for the $1,500 to
exactly.
be
He became a lifetime
libertarian
member of the Libertarian Party. So,
technicality.
I think you need to know what a libertarian is before you can appoint your cabinet, and he obviously doesn't know.
Yeah,
Or
it's
care.
certainly true. I think that exactly, Daryl. I agree with you.
He is a member.
He is a member, which is interesting because there
It's also a
was
tool. Yes, member.
there was a momentum at the convention to get him elected, but it was laughable.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Well, what's funny about it though is that we've talked about this before. I'm not telling tales out of school, but he was at the Freedom Fest in Las Vegas in 2023, July of 2023, and he met with Angela there.
Yeah, I
And,
remember the story coming out.
it was, if he had wanted the nomination, he certainly could have gotten it. There was time there to astroturf the state conventions and, nominate all the people you want.
Sure.
And just, for people who don't believe it can happen, it can absolutely happen. And it doesn't take that much money to do it. I guarantee you, your state convention, unless you're California, could be bought for $5,000.
Don't give Kanye any ideas.
Well, I mean, Kanye would be better than what we've got, but
I mean,
it's a tough call.
It's not a high bar there, but
Well, and actually, I mean, it's a really tough call because Kanye is like really crazy, right?
Oh,
A lot
yeah.
of the shit that he said is really out there. Trump, I feel like, is functional crazy. Like he's crazy, but with
he's narcissistically crazy.
Exactly. Anyway, hey
Joe, I think you're on mute, man. I didn't hear anything you said.
Really?
There you go. I hear you now.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just saying that RFK Jr. could have astroturfed conventions. Your miles may vary on that one. I mean, you could do it if you're serious about getting the LP.
We've talked about this. If Bill Weld had run for President 2020,
yeah,
we were going to do it. We had the money, and we didn't even have to do that much. No. But because the problem is that there's no state that has a real requirement for who can be a voting member of their convention. Nothing that I'm trying to think of who has the most, and I think the longest is 90 days. You have to have been a member for 90 days before you can vote at the convention, and most states don't have that. And if you've got $5,000, you can absolutely get 100 people to show up at any state convention and vote themselves delegates. That's not hard to do, and there are very few states that could resist 100 operatives showing up at their convention and voting in lockstep.
And you're nailing it, Dan. Herein lies the operational weakness of the Libertarian Party. Weak bylaws that allow this type of conduct. We need, and that allows the saboteurs to gain a foothold, get to different state conventions, do their little over, and before you know it, we're a fraction of what we ever used to be. Those bylaws need to be changed so that can't happen again.
Well, I mean, you were front and center with what happened in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You don't.
Well, I mean, it is interesting. It's interesting too, that the Liberal Party is trying to directly address that.
Yes.
In that, you can't be a voting member unless you're approved by other members, and you earn that.
One way of putting it.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's the idea that there are indeed going to have to be gatekeepers to prevent that sort of thing from happening. But it's pretty apparent that if you don't have gatekeepers, then you have gate crashers, and so
and we saw
that's where we are.
Yeah.
So
anyway, let's go back to Hunter Biden being pardoned.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that he did it. I know, in our private chat, my sister talked about, the fact that he thinks that he would have been in for a rough time with Donald Trump as president in jail, which I agree. Although, we were supposed to lock up Hillary.
It's interesting. I mean, first of all, it's certainly interesting to argue that, what Hillary did was comparable in terms of Hunter Biden's laptop, which is another thing that he was never prosecuted for.
Yeah.
But there's lots of things you can look at. The question is, do administrations use prosecution against their political enemies?
Well, I mean, we're now seeing some new, Kash Patel being nominated for the FBI.
Exactly.
That's a scary, scary nomination. Now, that's a guy that I don't know will make it through to confirmation, but again, Trump can, he's got the Senate.
Yep.
Will there be filibusters? Will the Republicans do away with the filibuster? There's questions there.
I mean,
the
answer is pretty clear. I mean, they're not. I don't think the Senate is going to give him the recess appointments that he wants.
No.
I think that even Republicans in the Senate would say that is an abrogation of our duty. Right. We will not stand aside. So then the question is going to become, we'll know it all with the very first vote, whether or not to suspend the filibuster.
Yeah, that's, but the question therein lies that, we've talked about this before with the Supreme Court decision. Trump could do some stuff.
Well, I mean, let's just assume, I think we've identified the 4 senators most likely to flip. Susan Collins,
Murkowski.
Murkowski, maybe Mike Lee, and
he's a little sketchy on that. Rand Paul, I don't know that he flips all that much.
Yeah, I guess
he's been pretty loyal.
He's been pretty loyal, but I mean, he's been relatively independent as well.
But his independence always shines more when there's a Democrat in the White House versus when there's, at least with Donald Trump being in the White House.
Yeah. It's actually interesting because, I'm looking at sort of the list right now, and they have the 118th. They don't have the 119th Senate listed yet. I guess they haven't seated anybody yet, but
I think the official results aren't due until the 6th.
Yeah.
What day?
Well, what was that, Joe?
I was about to say what a famous day, but maybe you're talking about December.
It's December 6th.
Yeah, December 6th is 1 month before the January 6th. Susan Collins will. No, Romney's done, isn't he? Didn't he?
Romney is done. He's been replaced by John Curtis.
Okay. Mormons kind of have a love-hate relationship with Trump.
Yep.
Not sure that maybe Curtis is kind of a flippy. Except for Lee's not been real solid either.
No. I think Lee's there. And tell me about your girl, Shelley Moore.
No, Shelley Moore Capito will not. She is somebody who will not give up power. Okay. And I think that for her, she knows that if she bucks Trump too much, she's going to lose her powerful seats. So she's now the senior senator of West Virginia. She is the she doesn't have the cachet of, say, a Robert Byrd or even Joe Manchin, but she now is the senior member of the delegation, and will.
And she's
has more power.
Senior overall too, right? This is her 3rd term.
Yeah, I think it's her third term here.
Yeah, so she's getting up there in seniority in the Senate, and so there should be some things coming along the way.
Yeah.
So. Look, but let's just assume that somehow the Republicans find 4, because that's what they need. 4 people who will insist on the filibuster. And if you get that, then once the filibuster's in place, And let's just assume that they say, okay, we're going to support the filibuster for cabinet appointees for anything, because they might support the filibuster for bills and not for cabinet appointees.
Yeah.
But let's just say that those four are still in place. You could certainly see, I don't want to call him Cash Jackson, because Cash Jackson was a libertarian from Illinois. Cash
Patel.
Huh?
Cash Patel.
Cash Patel is he's the nominee for Attorney General, and he has talked about using the office to root out evil in the American government system. Essentially, federal witch hunts to find the people who aren't loyal. But right, every candidate has a silver lining. He does have one proposal that I think is a pretty good idea, which is to move the FBI out of D.C., move them to Kansas or something like that.
They did something along that lines during the first Trump administration with Sonny Perdue, Department of Agriculture, trying to move them out to the Midwest, and kind of a disaster.
But why? Go ahead, Joe.
We move the FBI. What's the benefit of that? What's the benefit they're looking for? Or can
it saves about $500 million a year in rent.
Oh yeah, I mean the one thing here is
$500 million is, granted, not a lot of money, but it's something.
No, that's
the building that I'm in. They right before the pandemic hit, like in 2019, they signed a 15-year lease.
Yep.
And my building is empty. Like they're, they during the pandemic, they sent everybody out and, gave them all remote work. And so there's like 5 people that report to this office on a normal week's basis.
It's interesting because in Massachusetts, where, I was involved in politics for so long, this has sort of been a proposal for quite a while. The area where the government is in Boston, in Beacon Hill, that is incredibly valuable property. And they could move the state capitol, or even just move the state legislature, call the capitol whatever the hell you want it to be, right? Boston wants to be the capital, fine. Just move the legislature and all their offices out to Worcester. First of all, it's more egalitarian. And secondly, that area it's been estimated that it would sell for something like $24 billion.
Why don't you just move the legislature to the Atlantic Ocean and just let it sink?
Well, I personally would be in favor of, maybe an island, a floating boat. People would get seasick, and then they wouldn't want to serve that often. But
if you're doing that, can we get the Pennsylvania legislature on that same boat, please?
Well, but you raise a great point. Think how much cheaper it is for the legislature to be in Harrisburg than it would be if it were in Philadelphia, right? If it were in the middle of Philadelphia.
That might be a good point, but I'd turn around and say there's other places in the state that are even less expensive than that.
But, I would go to Lebanon, Greater Johnstown.
Oh yes, and don't
get down to Chambersburg.
Don't get me started on PA legislature. I mean, these guys can't even pass a gift ban. They have no morals and are completely corrupt.
Yeah.
No, a legislature vote with no morals or corruption. What?
State legislature?
Say it ain't so.
Yeah. Interesting question. I don't think there's any legal gambling anywhere in Pennsylvania, but I could be wrong. Joe, is there gambling anywhere in Pennsylvania?
May I enlighten you about legal gambling here in PA?
Please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, if you went back 30, no more than 35 years, most every resident in Pennsylvania would tell you, even though we had a state lottery at the time, they would say, "Oh, table games will never come here to Pennsylvania. No, not ever." Guess what? We're number 2 in the nation. Number 2 in casinos and table games. Only one state ahead. That's Nevada. And there's only one reason why we got here. The state all of a sudden saw a cash cow. They saw they could tax it and they could make money from it. And all of a sudden, gambling in Pennsylvania is an okay thing. It used to be immoral, but since the government said, well, it
now, did the local tribes ever have any casinos?
They do too. Yes, they do.
Okay.
But primarily private. Beyond that, beyond the local tribe.
I thought gaming was like very key in the survival of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Say that again.
When the Pittsburgh Penguins were on the brink of being relocated to like Kansas City or wherever, that casino gaming was actually key to getting them the new arena that they have, PPGA Paints Arena, and things like that, which helped save the franchise in Pittsburgh.
But they also raised the state sales tax 6%, but in Philadelphia County and Allegheny County they raised 7%. Now, initially they said that additional percentage was cultural, which we have quite a bit in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh. But yeah, it gets diverted elsewhere. Like a lot of our turnpike money diverted. And I have to say this, as far as the Penguins go, darn, thank you, Mario Lemieux. You were a great savior to this.
Well, you had two guys come in and save the franchise. You had Lemieux do it in the 80s and then come back and take ownership of the team. But then Sidney Crosby really kind of solidified the franchise there.
I like that you said Cindy.
And
I mean, I don't think you can talk about the Sabres without mentioning Ashik as well. But
well, that's true.
There is, it's interesting because the Shawnee are the big tribe, right, in Pennsylvania?
I don't know if it's a Shawnee. I've always known it to be a branch of Iroquois.
Yeah, I know the Iroquois are there too. It would be nice if they also had casinos, because Lord knows they certainly got the raw end of the deal on everything.
And, and if we could get a couple of Walt Longmires in here, it'll only help.
Yeah.
I think seeing the impact of Indian gaming in New Mexico, Isleta Pueblo, which is south of Albuquerque. You go south on I-25 and you drive through Isleta Pueblo. When I first moved to New Mexico, it literally was a developing nation. It was a third world country with mud huts and I mean, the squalor on the Isleta Pueblo was remarkable for it being just south of a major metropolitan area. And then when they got gaming back in the late 80s, early 90s, the track housing they put up there, the standard of living on the reservation became so much better. It's not perfect. They still have lots of institutional bullshit, but there's lots of good things coming from gaming, allowing the reservations to keep money, keep people working at the reservations, keep their communities together.
Absolutely, it's a good thing. And they who would have thought, but I think good thing.
Hey Joe, you're breaking up, man.
Really? Yep.
Yeah.
I apologize. I wasn't able to get this on my laptop. I'm doing this off my phone. It's breaking up. I apologize.
No worries.
The link on to your email. So if you want to hop on your regular computer,
we'll still be here.
I will be right back.
All right.
There we go. We'll fill.
All right. We'll fill by talking more about. There was another thing that I'd sent you. What was it? Oh, the Aleppo is back in the news.
What is Aleppo?
Aleppo is a small leprechaun. That, Aleppo.
Everybody's are having a little PTSD go on.
Yep. Aleppo is, of course, the famous city in Syria that Gary Johnson was unable to name during an ambush interview.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he wasn't able to. It was asked a series of questions that weren't related, then they just say, well, what about Aleppo? And, at that point of time during the day and the pivot, he didn't catch,
I'll give you some of that, but Dave, you would have got it right. I would have got it right.
I mean, yeah, I know my mind would have caught on to it, but the problem is, if you watch that interview and when he says, "Oh, Aleppo, Syria, got it," and then he drops a really great answer about what to do about Syria.
Yep. No, I mean he has it. He has it all right. It was a very rough time in the morning.
Yep.
All of those things. I think 9 times out of 10, Gary gets that question right.
Sure.
And he definitely knew all the right answers. Right? He knew what
they were looking for that.
He knew how to fix it. Anything like that. It just wasn't something that was on the top of the list that he was talking about. And so, if they'd given him just a little more clues, if they had said, now turning to Syria, what do you think about Aleppo? He would have gotten it right away.
Yeah.
All that being said, Aleppo is back in the news.
It is.
Because rebels who are backed by Turkey have taken control of Aleppo. And it was Barnacle. So rebels backed by Turkey have seized control of Aleppo.
Turkey.
And the Russians are helping the Syrians to fight them back, to bomb them back. Well, and it's interesting because Syria is, in a weird spot because they've been supporters of Hezbollah, and they are now weakened by Hezbollah being weakened, and Iran is in a similar boat, and Iran has also backed the Syrian regime. And let's face it, the Russians aren't in great shape militarily right now either.
Yeah, to offer any support. I mean, that was kind of one of the big things that the Wagner Group had been involved with.
That's where they got their reputation. Was that they were able to crush these rebels who have no military capacity, really, except that they could beat the Syrians.
And that's what I'm hearing is that the Syrian army is just melting right now. They are offering limited resistance.
Yeah. So what's really interesting, though, is that with the rebels being backed by Turkey and the relationship between Russia and Turkey, this is an odd little conflict going on.
Oh, yeah.
A break of what's happening. And I wonder if somewhere some people are thinking, Turkey's a NATO member, and here they are sort of in a proxy war with Russia. Maybe this is something that NATO allies can use to bring Turkey a little closer back to what's happening. And, let's face it, a regime change in Turkey would be a very interesting geopolitical event.
I mean, with Erdogan, he's kind of one of those guys that Trump kind of wants to model the way he wants the next 4 years to go, being able to weed out disloyal people in the government, especially the general class who exerted far more influence in Turkey than in the United States. But if you were able to swing Turkey back towards the NATO orbit, and Turkey doesn't have great trust with Russia. I mean, they've clashed over the Bosphorus and the access to the Black Sea and things like that. So, I am hopeful here. I'm not a big fan of Bashar al-Assad, although our Director of National Intelligence, Miss Designate Tulsi Gabbard, is a very big supporter of.
That's another thing that's going to be weird in the impact of all of this. That, here I honestly don't know how it's going to go, but the other thing about it, of course, is that Syria does have weapons of mass destruction. They have a chemical arsenal, and they have the capacity to use it. And in fact, if we cycle back around, when I think it was when Obama was in office, then they were talking about using them, and
Absolutely, Adam.
yeah, the Republicans were complaining, saying we can't allow the Syrians to threaten to use chemical weapons or to use chemical weapons. I believe that there is an American doctrine that says, "Hey, Joe, you're here. Welcome." I believe that there is an American doctrine that says that if a country uses chemical weapons, the United States will intervene.
Well, there was a lot of talk about red lines, and
Right.
that's line in the sand and stuff like that. That Obama was pushing, and the Republicans kept on saying, "Oh, well, this is a line in the sand. They did this. Let's go to war." And
Right.
yeah, it's gonna.
We live in a world now that a flashpoint of a weapon of mass destruction being used, which I think there's a pretty good chance that's going to happen. It would not surprise me to see the Russians use chemical weapons in Aleppo, because, or the Syrians rather, because that's all they've got. I mean, when you're presented with a much larger army, your only military response, if you're going to keep fighting, is to use weapons of mass destruction against the opposing army, which the Syrians don't have nukes, but they do have chemical weapons, and the rebels don't have chemical weapon warfare gear. And are the Syrians crazy enough to use chemical weapons on their own soil? I think they are.
Yeah, I don't think they have any compunction about using chemical weapons.
But then once we have that lid off the jar of using chemical weapons, of using weapons of mass destruction, is that going to lead to escalation in other theaters?
I mean, that begs the question: is will the American people care enough?
Yeah, will the American?
There's a certain segment that'll be like all about going there, but there's going to be a large amount of people are going to be like,
well, I think
Syria.
I think the American people won't care about that. But for me, looking at the larger picture, I think that is the opening that allows Russia to lower the bar even further.
In Ukraine?
In the Ukraine. And then, it certainly wouldn't surprise me to see them start using tactical nuclear weapons if that happens. And when you get to that stage, right, we're talking about,
oh yeah,
a half kiloton nuclear artillery shell, which, those things exist. They're unstoppable. And they will wipe out a column of infantry or, assembled tanks or anything like that. In those spaces, Russia trying to reclaim, I mean, it is very interesting. There's a pattern over time that we always see, that when peace is about to break out, both sides grab everything they can before peace is about to happen. And I think you see that happening right now in Russia, where both the Russians and the Ukrainians are trying to grab everything they can because they know Trump is going to impose peace on them somehow. Similarly, you sort of saw that.
Lasting though.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a lasting peace. I mean, I have a feeling it will be, because I can't imagine Ukraine being caught short again. I think given, a 2-year capacity, Ukraine can have a stealth nuclear weapons program pretty easy. They certainly have the capacity, they have the resources, and then they would just announce, we've detonated a nuclear weapon, and then do whatever.
Yeah.
But
I thought maybe Biden would be like, let's sneak a couple nukes back into Ukraine. I mean, it's hard to sneak nuclear weapons into a country, but
right. I mean, again, that's another sort of protocol that you don't want to cross.
That's for sure.
The suitcase bomb is such a nightmare.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you look at, the same thing just happened right now with the ceasefire in Lebanon, right? In the 24 hours leading up to the ceasefire, when everybody knew it was coming, Israel and Hezbollah pounded the hell out of each other. And that's always the pattern. And that's why I do think that Russia and Ukraine have a feeling that there is going to be peace after Trump comes in, because you see them doing all the things that they would do if they thought a peace was going to be enforced.
I think it lasts until some other flashpoint happens, whether it's Taiwan and China, or a expansion of what happens in the Middle East. There's a distraction factor that I think Vladimir Putin is looking for us to. I mean, I think he completely manufactured October 7th with the help of Iran and Hamas, to distract the United States from being completely focused on Ukraine. But Putin is looking for another angle so that, he's got a pliable leader coming into the White House, and if we're distracted with something going on in either the South China Sea or the Middle East, he goes total war on Ukraine. No matter what the peace, whatever peace deal that Trump thinks he's going to negotiate here as he comes into office, I don't think it lasts. I think there's just going to be a flashpoint, and then he's going to go total war.
Dave, you just, I think, nailed it with your description. You said that Putin has a quote, a pliable leader coming into the White House. How sad is that? I don't know where it goes from here. Once this is going to be something to watch unfold. I've loved everything you guys have been saying. I wonder where you think it's going to go in the short run. Right now, I'm hearing the Russians are amassing troops on the Kursk border, along with North Korean reinforcements. Not really that many when it comes to North Korea. They don't have that much, but it looks like they're amassing for an offensive. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll be interested if they got them massed in a, massing troops is good if you're in a ceasefire, quote unquote ceasefire. Mm-hmm. However, if you put a bunch of troops in one location, you do leave them vulnerable to a large attack. Yes.
And we've seen great things from the Ukrainians. They may be already planning this, obviously, and second guessing their aggressor's state.
Well,
they could wipe those guys out.
Yeah, and especially, Ukraine has been using the Scudams. What are they called?
Those drones.
The long-range missiles.
They finally got the use of the long-range missiles.
Those, if you're going to mass troops, they're going to get hit by those missiles.
Yeah.
And so
vulnerable again.
Yeah. It's an interesting space to be in. I think that Ukraine's capacity to fight as a nation is going to be linked to their capacity to be coherent as a nation.
Absolutely.
And Putin recognizes that. And so that's why, at times like winter, he attacks power plants.
Yeah.
To disrupt the function of the nation.
Yeah.
Because
it's morale. It's all morale.
Yeah. They're not really capable of winning the war militarily, just because, it's really hard to win a war militarily against a large nation on their own home turf.
Yeah.
I think Adam's point about an insurgency, there was, I have a friend who was in Kuwait for about 8 months before the first Desert Storm, leading the insurgency there as a Navy SEAL assisting locals. And there's all sorts of stuff that's so difficult to occupy a country. And one of the things that they did is that they would get together and they would bake bread really nice, delicious loaves of bread, and they would bake them with soap in them. And then they would ride past the guards who would inspect their goods and seize the bread with soap in them and then
Ah,
eat them. And now you've sent, 7 guys to the infirmary
yeah,
for
yeah.
a couple days, stuff
Beautiful,
like that.
beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
All these simple things that make it so difficult to occupy a country.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, so, which is why in the harshest occupations, you see ethnic cleansing.
Yeah.
They,
I mean, that's the thing that's going to happen is that any Russian territory, they're going to move people there. I mean, it's Russia's MO throughout the Soviet era was
Sure.
we will move a ton of Russian people into the area to Russify it, and then and that's long been their grievance with places like Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania is that there's a large ethnic Russian population in those countries, and if that they're independent and they're speaking Estonian, Latvian, Lithuanian, they're threatening the local Russian population,
Mhm.
with not quite ethnic cleansing, but taking them out of their culture.
Yes.
That's what's really driven Russia's re-expansionist policies. Of course, Putin is a old KGB warrior that wants to get the band back together.
right.
And let's face it, that is the bigger thing here. If Ukraine must win this war, blatantly said by me. They must win, because if they don't, we can clearly expect the Russians to start to override the Balkans. When you look at those countries, they've had unprecedented success on their own. Estonia is a marvel in and of itself. Yeah. We can't possibly let the Russians say, okay, Ukraine's dropped, we got them, let's focus our attentions here. And that's how they'll start to try to run through Europe. It's like we almost haven't learned from history. So it's got to stop. We've got to beat them at Ukraine for all the right reasons.
I wonder if Biden here the last month gives Ukraine NATO membership.
I sure hope so. They sure deserve it.
He can't. Right? How could he possibly do that?
But right now, are they not de facto NATO members? Seriously, are they not de facto NATO members right now? Look at all the support they're getting from other NATO countries.
Yeah. I mean,
they won't, because Hungary will block it.
Yeah, I think that, and it has to be unanimous.
Yeah.
So Hungary would block it.
Although I think they'd trade Ukraine for Hungary at this point.
So that would be a very interesting to see if they might expel Hungary for that vote.
Works.
And then
Works.
bring them in again. But remember, Turkey's in NATO as well. Mm-hmm. So that's where that whole Turkey alliance thing comes in. On the other hand, Turkey and Ukraine share a sea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could see, forgive the pun there, it makes sense that they would be in some form of close alliance with each other.
Yes.
They have history with each other.
Yes.
I think that would be some of the best solutions that could come out of it.
Absolutely.
I don't know what step Putin is willing to go to keep Ukraine out of NATO. What I do know is that I have very little doubt that in the field, we have seen that Russian forces would be very quickly overwhelmed by NATO forces.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that the big lesson of this war is the
Russians are
rather ineptitude of the Russian army. I mean, their whole thing has been kind of overwhelming with numbers, but they haven't. I mean,
right? You wouldn't think that they could be
Ukraine. They haven't made much progress, if any.
Yeah, you wouldn't think they could be less prepared for war than they were in 1940.
Yeah,
but apparently they are.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I mean, the only thing that has kept them in the fight is enormous reserves, which
But now they're relying on North Korea to help.
it's
some
so
of it.
it's
If
so
you need-
humiliating. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Joe.
if you need North Korean reinforcements of all of 3,000 or whatever the number is, you're in dire straits. And
Yep.
I look at this and I think at any given moment they could fold. They could get to that breaking point where they're saying, but they won't say it, but we'll expose it. Where all of a sudden it starts tumbling in Ukraine's favor and away from the Russians.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I do suspect that there will be no peace in Putin's lifetime. Much
No.
like we
You're
couldn't
nailing
have.
it, Dan. You know what
Yeah.
what you just said? I mean, we're all talking about the next 4 years here under Trump, right? Trump's
Yeah.
what, 78?
Yeah.
I anticipate in the next 4 years, Trump and Putin are both gone. And there's going to be a new vacuum filled. But those two guys who are fueling this very dispute we're talking about are going to croak. Highly likely.
Adam makes a good point talking about Chechnya, although with the some of the Chechen leaders have been brought over to fight in Ukraine. They've lost some of those strong men that have kind of ruled Chechnya with an iron fist. I've heard rumblings that Chechnya might get active again because they've lost a number of their experienced fighting folks.
Sure.
All right, so we'd be reticent if we get through this week's episode without talking about tariffs. We've got
tariffs. That thing that never works. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly.
Yes.
Tariffs are taxes that we all pay, and
it's interesting. I read and then posted this. I don't know if you guys saw it. An article about the tariffs against China that Biden introduced against Chinese electric cars.
Yeah.
So I was not aware that currently in the world, 1 out of 3 electric cars, 1 out of 3 cars total is made in China.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Chinese auto manufacturing is really going.
To see the amount of lithium being extracted out of Africa by Chinese companies is, I mean, they are strip mining the shit out of Africa. It's crazy to think about. It doesn't surprise me that they are leading, one of the leading electric car manufacturers.
Right. Well, and if you want to know a little bit of why perhaps there's an alliance between Trump and Elon Musk, by all accounts, the Chinese electric cars are excellent, and they sell for.
I've seen some videos of
they sell
their
for about
electric
$20,000.
Yeah,
and it's really interesting that the Chinese are probably going to solve their climate, at least part of their climate issue, by removing internal combustion cars from their roads relatively soon. And that's going to be weird.
I find it amazing, though. I can't comment about China, their cars, their environment. I've never been there. But I know this. Cars here in, say, 1970, a mere 50 years ago, were way more putting out pollution. We have at least double the cars on the road today since then. Think of that, twice as many cars, and yet they emit less pollution than they did then.
Oh yeah.
We are actually leading the way in accomplishment. We are leading the way in accomplishing goals, whereas India, China, they're basically exploiting the goals. And that's the problem.
They are for now, but they're also paying a heavy price for it. I mean,
Sure.
Dan and we had that story, I think last week, talking about the heaviest pollution day was in New Delhi. China has had days. I remember they had the efforts they had to go through when they had both the summer and the winter Olympics in Beijing.
Yeah.
And how much they had to do, stopping manufacturing for several weeks leading up to the Olympics, and
right,
and keeping cars from going into the city just to keep the pollution levels down, so you could compete in sporting events.
You think about how it was just a few decades ago. Let's say go back 40 years to the moment of the Tiananmen Square event. You didn't see that many cars running around China. I'm sure there were, but it was, I'm sure, a fraction of what it was today.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just their economy has exploded. It's up to them to bring it into the fold.
Yeah, after Tiananmen, they really embraced the economic communism.
Mm-hmm.
Having a healthy economy, but having a tight control. They face a lot of things that a lot of modern American cities do on a Chinese scale, like the traffic jams there that lasted for days because you had just a sheer volume of cars that just couldn't move.
Sure.
It's crazy to think of how that economy has transformed over the last 40 years, even with their ruthless dictatorship that they've got in power.
And it's amazing to think about what could have been accomplished with cooperation between our two countries. They could have avoided, I'm sure, a lot of that with a little bit of input from us.
But it's going to get worse because we're going to slap more tariffs on them.
Yep.
They're going to slap tariffs on us. In fact, Trump talked about slapping a 100% tariff on BRICS countries if they decide to go with the new currency.
I cannot imagine how stupid Trump is. I mean, Smoot-Hawley, 1931, I think, certainly proved that this doesn't work. And here he is thinking it's some new event, some new idea, and he's the savior for it. We're going to have horrendous inflation under the Trump administration over the next 4+ years because of these policies.
That's why we bought a car a couple weekends ago, because who knows how much a car is going to cost in 3 months,
What did you buy? And more importantly, what color?
We got a shiny red Chevy.
You lost me at red. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Chevy Equinox.
Nice. Whatever, Pinko.
I love that car.
I bought American, damn it, even though it's probably manufactured overseas.
Well done, Dave. Well done.
Yeah.
Red.
Yeah, I had to. The red was more for Aaliyah, but the decision to buy it was because we had an older car that was had already lost a transmission at one point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And knowing that in 3 months you're going to see China get slapped with massive tariffs. You're going to
and Japan and
Japan. We had Justin Trudeau come visit Mar-a-Lago this weekend to basically negotiate tariffs from the incoming Trump administration. Yeah,
Mexico as well. Susan, what's her
Fernandez?
name? I came to talk about car parts in Mexico. And
think about avocados from Mexico. I mean, how much are those going to be?
Avocados.
How much is your guacamole going to be?
But avocados is interesting because there's a pretty substantial amount of avocados grown in Santa Barbara. People who haven't been to the avocado festival in Santa Barbara, put it on your bucket list to do it one year because it's just amazing.
But the
car parts, Trump wants those factories back in the United States, and that's the point of those tariffs.
But again, those getting those car parts back in the United States means that those car parts are going to be more expensive because you're going to have American labor making them.
Yep, no, 100%, 100%.
Maybe not in American, like heavy labor areas like Detroit, Michigan, but you're still going to have a higher overhead to manufacture those parts.
What's really interesting about it is that it's such an antiquated thing now that if you were going to build that factory, the factory that makes car parts today, it would contain so much automation that it's not like you're actually bringing many jobs back to the United States.
They took our turbs.
Yeah, exactly.
But to go back to the point on avocados, marry that with the fact that Trump wants to deport millions of people,
right?
People who work in that industry.
Yep.
Do you
and it's an industry it's an industry that doesn't take well to automation.
No.
Yet. I mean, there are.
I mean, you can have a shaking.
It's exactly what I was saying. There's the tree shaking things. Those are really interesting. But picking fruit,
very labor intensive.
Very labor intensive.
Yes.
If people haven't read On the Road by Jack Kerouac, I can't recommend it enough. And there's a fabulous scene where they pick cotton, and I can't remember the main character's name right now, the narrator, and he thinks that it's going to be so easy to pick cotton. He's traveling around with migrants, his girlfriend, and her mother, and they start off picking the cotton, and very quickly it becomes apparent that it's difficult to pick cotton. There's a burr that is sharp, and if you cut your finger on it, then you bleed on the cotton, and now that cotton's no good anymore.
Yep.
And then you're working stooped over the entire day, and the narrator is able to work for like an hour and a half, and that's it. And then he's shamed when his girlfriend's mother brings in all these buckets of cotton.
Oh yeah.
Whatever is the reason, Americans can't do that very well. And although the cotton gin is certainly an amazing invention,
the
picking still has to be done manually.
Yeah, well, I mean, the cotton gin is what extended slavery in the United States.
Yep.
That was
it made it economically even more beneficial.
Exactly. So, all right, gentlemen. So we are in agreement that Trump tariffs are going to be a disaster. I think Trump tariffs plus, as Adam points out, adding Trump tariffs to mass deportation is going to be a massive loss for American consumers, as their prices are going to go through the roof
for the economy.
I did see a meme this week that made me laugh. It's like, dear American or dear Amazon, or basically any American company, we all have TVs. Put groceries on Black Friday prices.
I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. Brutal. I do wonder if there's going to be a return to hardship eating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Cabbages and potatoes, those aren't imported right now. And you can eat those. It's the core of what we eat. The things that we import, I think by and large are, I don't want to say luxury foods, but I don't think we import milk or eggs.
Maybe Trump's hope is that he makes the American people so poor that they go back to these jobs.
I think that there is a transactional element to that. I mean, I know you meant that in jest, but I don't think you're wrong about that, Dave.
No, I don't think so either. Really, I don't.
His vision is to transform an American first economy in which goods are produced in America first too, even though from an economic standpoint, we know that that's a terrible thing. You don't want to be the nation that produces so many goods. You want to be a nation that produces services and then consumes goods that others have made. And that's what the United States is right now. But Trump wants to move us back. And in many ways, this is why he has the labor vote, to become a country that produces things other than services.
Those jobs aren't going to go to those labor.
Exactly.
States. They're going to go to,
but where it becomes incredibly short-sighted is that manufacturing jobs shouldn't come back here anyway. But if they do come back, it's going to be automation that stands up and takes that away, because automation is so good now. There's no way.
Facing the coal mines, like the coal mines, they were like, oh, well, Trump's going to bring back the coal jobs. No, he brought back he did have more emphasis on coal, but a lot of those coal jobs are automated now because a total collapses and it wrecks a machine. That's one thing. You don't lose 30 miners down in the mine,
right? Exactly.
So we did bring back coal to an extent, but all we're doing is making the coal barons rich, and nobody else really got a lot of work out of it. So,
and that's what's going to happen with car parts. Part manufacturing. The biggest there's an economic reality around oil that if gasoline is selling for more than $5 a gallon, then solar is very competitive financially. And if it's less than $5 a gallon, solar is not as competitive anymore.
So they can't let it go there.
Exactly. So they don't let it go there. So they control the price. The same thing is true for car parts. Once car parts reach a certain expensive level, automation will kick in and they'll start doing all of the things and making the parts not for free, but essentially for cost at that point in time. And so previously it's been difficult to do it because the cheap labor in Mexico has kept car parts cheap and car part factories there. But if you increase the price of car parts in Mexico by adding tariffs, now there's incentive to build automated car plants in the United States, which if I were a Teamster and I saw this truck coming down the path, I'd say, why is there not a Teamster driving that truck? That's my joke for the day. It wasn't very good. I apologize. But you see where I'm going.
Yeah. No, absolutely. All right. So are y'all ready for Le Quiz?
We have a quiz? Really?
Le Quiz.
Let's go for it.
It's a Thanksgiving quiz.
Oh, boy.
Happy Skanksgiving to all those who celebrate.
Nice.
All right. So Thanksgiving quiz 2024. This was done on Thursday. So makes sense that they did. Thanksgiving is the theme this week. So question 1 of 10. Where did the Pilgrims celebrate the first Thanksgiving? Jamestown, Virginia, Plymouth, Massachusetts, Charleston, South Carolina, or Newport, Rhode Island. If you got this wrong,
you just have to point out that the way you have the pictures. Exactly.
There we go. All right, hold on a second.
I want to say Plymouth, but that's just a guess.
Think about what Malcolm X said. He said, "We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us." And so, it's Plymouth.
Is Plymouth.
Jamestown. Now let's talk about all the lies that are in here. Most people will tell you that Jamestown is the longest continuous settlement in North America, but that's not actually true because St. Augustine was settled by the Spanish in 1519 and has been continuously around since then.
Yeah.
However, St. Augustine doesn't count because it was settled by Spaniards and not by English speakers. So
Santa Fe's got New Mexico's got it's pretty old. I don't know what its claim to fame, but it's over.
Adam also says Santa Fe, but I mean, it's 1519 is going to be hard to beat, fellas. I can't imagine that there were Europeans that far inland.
Did you say 1519?
1519 is the date on St. Augustine.
Plymouth was 1620.
Plymouth is 1620. Jamestown is 1607. Columbus is 1492. So 1519 is really early.
Yeah.
For settlement. But, I mean, it makes sense, right? It would be on Florida, on the Atlantic coast on Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, 1610 for Santa Fe, New Mexico. I know it went through its 400th anniversary.
Is it a Spanish settlement?
Yeah. Spanish conquistador Don Pedro de Peralta founded in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Andale.
Wow. So that's a great example. I had no idea that Santa Fe was.
Royal City of Holy Faith of St. Francis of Assisi.
Wow, Arriba.
Yeah. Yeah. So, very old town. Question number 2. President Joe Biden pardoned 2 turkeys at the White House. Oh, they call Hunter a turkey.
Exactly.
At the White House this week. What were the birds' names? Oh, I don't even know. Apricot and rose, apple and daisy, peach and blossom, pear and tulip.
I only know this. I know this because when I read it, I'm like, that's really stupid. I did not spatchcock a turkey.
I wanted to say Blanche and Esmeralda, but those weren't the choices.
It is peach and blossom.
Wow.
And part of it is that I thought that it thought together, and then I thought they were giving a shout out to Mayim Bialik, who of course famously played Blossom on television all those years ago.
Janice got it. Look at that.
How about that?
Nice job, Janice.
Well, Carol got it too, but that wasn't a choice. All right. 2 for 2. Question number 3. Which U.S. president issued the first Thanksgiving proclamation? Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Franklin D. Roosevelt, or Teddy Roosevelt?
If you can't get this from the picture, you're losing out.
I gotta say George Washington.
I agree with Joe just based on the picture.
Carol won Thanksgiving, I think. I mean, if I'm in Texas, I'm going to go get barbecue for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's such good barbecue in Houston too. I mean, I will tell you, I have a debate when I get there because
and Dan,
Maryland has its own sort of barbecue, which as a Texan I wouldn't call barbecue, but there's certainly barbecue chicken here, stuff like that.
DC does not have any really decent barbecue restaurants. It was so disappointing. There's a couple around that were okay.
Right.
Pork Barrel in Arlington was okay, but in DC proper,
yeah. So it's not barbecue, but if you want good brisket, Char Bar is excellent, and you can go there to fight. They had all their windows smashed out again.
And there's the man.
Yep.
Carol and Janice got that right. October 3rd, 1789, George Washington issued his Thanksgiving proclamation, designated a day of public Thanksgiving to be held on the Thursday, the 26th day of November that year. Abraham Lincoln would later declare Thanksgiving a national holiday in 1863. And remember, Canada's Thanksgiving is actually earlier in the year at what we are calling either Indigenous Peoples Day or Columbus Day.
When is Canada's? Because if I can go there and get double the turkey.
I mean, it's really just hockey that you get in Canada.
Well, it's Canada. That makes sense.
I mean,
yeah.
It's not bad. It's not a bad choice, though.
Yeah.
No.
Question number 4. Turkey is typically the centerpiece of Thanksgiving dinner. Which U.S. state raises the most turkeys? I would say D.C. raises a lot of turkeys, but that's
they moved to D.C. It's an interesting question. So I know Tyson has giant plants in Arkansas.
Tyson is a massive manufacturer. It's either Arkansas or North Carolina. I don't think it's Indiana, Minnesota.
Yeah,
guys. Where's Purdue? I've got a great Purdue joke for you.
Purdue is in Indiana.
So, guys, years ago, Frank Purdue, who owned Purdue Chicken, as you know, he took a trip. He took a trip to the Vatican, and he got an audience with the Pope. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
No, it's true. And he went to the Pope, and he said, Your Excellency, I'm Frank Purdue, and I'd like to ask if you could change the Lord's Prayer to give us this day your daily bread, to give us this day your daily chicken. Have you heard this one?
I have not.
No.
Oh, well, the Pope looked at Frank Purdue, and he said, no, I'm afraid not. We can't do that here. Be on your way. So a day goes by, and is this appropriate? Can I tell this joke?
Of course.
No, there's no limit to jokes here.
Oh,
Yeah.
good, good. So the next day comes, and guess what? The Pope's sitting there on his chair, and here comes Frank. And Frank walks up. He says, Pope, I'm really sorry about yesterday. I didn't mean any disrespect, but I have a question for you. And he says, what is it, my son? He says, well, again, I'd like to ask, for $100,000, can you change the Lord's Prayer from "Give us this day your daily bread" to "Give us this day your daily chicken"? And the Pope looks at him and he says, I don't know who you think you're talking to. Do you realize who I am? Be on your way. And Frank leaves. So all of a sudden, it's day 3. You're still with me, guys?
Yep.
And day 3, the Pope's sitting there. He's receiving people, and wouldn't you know, he looks. Here comes Frank. Here comes Frank Perdue. And he walks up, and the Pope's like, I don't believe this. And he looks at him, and Frank says, look, I'm telling you one time, Pope, one time, $1 million. Give us this day your daily chicken instead of give us this day your daily bread. And the Pope looks at Frank, and he says, I'll get back to you. Give me a minute. Scene changes. You with me?
Yep.
And all of a sudden, there's a different scene, and you see the Pope standing in this large room, big conference table, all the cardinals sitting around him. And the Pope says, guys, I've got a proposition for you. We've got an offer here to change the prayer from "Give us this day your daily bread" to "Give us this day your daily chicken." He says, that's the good news. He says, the bad news is I really think we're going to lose the Wonder Bread account.
That's funny.
Nice. All right.
Thank you for hanging in there with me.
There you go. All right. So consensus is kind of gathering around Arkansas. Do you want to go with that one? I know Janice says
Arkansas.
North Carolina. Let's do Arkansas Press. Oh, no, Minnesota.
Wow.
Hey, what happened? Who would have thought?
Minnesota, really?
Wow.
Usually raises the most turkeys, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Around 38 million birds are raised in the state in 2023, followed by 29 million raised in North Carolina. So we were, Janice got second.
I would have never
on
thought
that one. That was the one I completely discounted. I thought Indiana might have been plausible, but I never would have guessed Minnesota.
I would have, but at least give us this day our daily chicken, okay?
Yeah. Question number 5. What is the average price of a 16-pound turkey this year? $26, $33, $41, or $54?
I'll say 33.
16 pounds. Let's just say if it were 50 cents a pound, which it's not, let's say 50 cents a pound, that would be
$8.
$8.
I would say.
What do you think? I think it's going to be cheap. I mean, I
No.
know turkey goes for
The turkey breast I did was like $20-something.
turkey breast is more expensive. It's not uncommon. Like right now, you can get turkey for around 59 cents a pound.
Well, I mean, right now, yeah, you definitely can get
Exactly.
turkey for 59 cents a pound.
Right. But 26 would be still under $2.
I'm thinking about $2.50 a pound.
$2.50. All right, so $2.50 would be pretty easy. Right? 32 plus half of 6 is 8. That's $40. Let's go 41.
Adam says 41. Carol says 54. Janice says 54. Carol says inflation.
54 would be over $3 a pound for a turkey, which would just seem crazy to me.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
All right, we'll do 41. No, 26.
What'd I tell you?
I missed it.
Turkey is so cheap. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that's great about turkey.
Damn, I should have cooked a whole turkey then for what I paid for the breast.
Well, I will tell you, Dave, do you have a meat freezer?
We do, yeah. It's completely packed right now, but
Okay. Well, take some stuff out and put in some turkeys.
I know. Yeah, we got some stuff that probably needs some dental records to identify.
Well, I mean, that stuff you should take out anyway.
Yeah.
But for everybody else, turkey's going to be around 59 cents a pound right now. And turkey breast, just the hotel breast, will probably be around 89 to 99 cents a pound. So it's definitely worth it to stock up.
Wow, Janice, I mean, I'm thinking this is probably California's influence
Well,
on the price.
you're
3
buying,
pounds for $18.
yeah, that's pretty crazy. $6 a pound. But also you're buying, very expensive name brand and just the breast. So the breast alone
Breasticles.
obviously costs more, but all right.
Shadime. All right. Question number 6. Which Thanksgiving dish was invented in the 1950s by a Campbell Soup Company employee? Green bean casserole, sweet potato casserole, corn pudding, or candied yams? I've got to say it's green bean casserole because
100%, because
Campbell's.
I'm with you
green
guys.
bean casserole has a can of mushroom soup in it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And Carol says it's green bean casserole. So
Yeah. All right. Correct. Campbell's home economist named Dorcas Riley. Oh, that's a horrible name, Dorcas.
Yeah, really.
Invented the green bean casserole, green bean bait, as it was first called. It's a new way to use Campbell's cream and mushroom soup. It wasn't originally intended as a Thanksgiving favorite, but quickly became one. Yeah. I mean, gotta love it.
there's
Actually, I'm not a real big fan of green. I mean, I used to love green bean casseroles, but it really started turning my stomach a couple of years ago, and I don't know why. Question number 7. Cranberry sauce is a holiday staple. How many pounds of cranberries do Americans consume during Thanksgiving week? If it's one, it's too many. I'm not a fan of cranberry sauce.
I'm a big cranberry sauce fan, but obviously I grew up in Massachusetts,
Yeah,
where most cranberries
the
come from.
bogs.
Wisconsin's second highest. Let's see.
So
300
20 million, 80 million, 250, or 1 billion.
1 billion seems too much.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm going to
Yeah.
guess 250 million.
Ooh. There's 330 million people in the United States. Do you think that we're about a pound a person? Because I mean, there are a lot of people that just don't like.
Yeah, I think so. Right. I mean, you want to go 80? I mean, Carol says very little. We can go 20, but that's a tenth of a pound per person.
That's more than
I
you
mean,
ate.
but I'm thinking that on Thanksgiving you if you are, I mean, somebody who really loves cranberry sauce is going to eat more, but
Yeah.
just get like one slice out of the can shaped
Yeah,
mold.
I mean, it's during the week too. So you have the cranberry sauce with your meal, but then for your turkey sandwiches the next day, you put stuffing and cranberry sauce onto that sandwich. So
One cranberry per person.
it's pounds. Yeah, 80 seems right to me.
All right. Correct.
Yes.
Americans consume 80 million pounds of cranberries during Thanksgiving week and nearly 400 million pounds per year, mostly in the form of juice or juice blends. I like cranberry juice. I'm not a big fan of cranberry sauce, though.
Right.
Question number 8. Parades are longstanding Thanksgiving tradition. Where was the first Thanksgiving Day parade in the United States? Philadelphia, New York, Detroit, or Boston?
If you're going to guess old things in America, I would go with
Philadelphia or Boston.
Philadelphia. Yeah, exactly. Except that the Pilgrims are from Massachusetts.
I'm guessing Boston.
Yeah, but well, it's interesting. I wonder if the picture is a guide at all. I don't know.
It doesn't look like downtown New York.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, this is not the Macy's parade.
Yeah.
clearly. I think I would guess Philadelphia, but Boston feels pretty strong.
Carol says Philly.
All right.
All right, let's do Philly.
Carol and I agree. Yeah.
Correct.
We are on fire.
Philadelphia's Gimbel Brothers department store staged a Thanksgiving procession in 1920 with 50 people. That's a party. 15 cars and a fireman dressed as Santa Claus to usher in the holiday shopping season. Macy's in New York held its first parade in 1924.
You know, I rewatched over the holidays Miracle on 34th Street with my dad and the family and
Nice.
people who haven't seen it. The original Miracle on 34th Street stars a young Natalie Wood and Maureen O'Hara, and really a movie very advanced for its time. Maureen O'Hara is a divorced single mother. Her daughter, has a job, all sorts of things, and yet main character in the movie is very good.
Yeah. Let's see. Another Thanksgiving tradition is football. Which NFL team has played the most games on Thanksgiving Day? The Chicago Bears, Dallas Cowboys, Detroit Lions, or the New England Patriots?
I'm pretty sure it's the Cowboys.
Is it? I would have thought it's Detroit.
I think there's a period when it was only the Cowboys in my youth. Detroit obviously could have played more games before the Cowboys came into existence. Everybody else is saying the Lions. So if we want to go to the Lions, I'm going to register that I said it was the Cowboys.
Cowboys don't win everything, Dan.
It's true. It is the Lions.
It is the Lions. Who play every year on Thanksgiving. The first began the tradition in 1934, well before the Cowboys were in existence.
Yeah, exactly.
Well before the Kansas City. What was the team that ended up moving? Kansas City. Was it the
Kansas City won the third Super Bowl?
Yeah, but no. Before, didn't the Cowboys come from Kansas City? Down from Kansas City?
Oh no. So the Dallas Texans.
Dallas Texans moved to Kansas City. That's right. Okay.
The Kansas City Chiefs when the Cowboys came to exist in Dallas in 1961.
There you go. Question 10 out of 10. The organic compound in turkey that often gets blamed for making you sleepy after Thanksgiving. What is that? Melatonin, dopamine, tryptophan, or triglyceride? And it is
tryptophan.
Trippin'. You be tripping.
I am a tryptophan.
And how truthful is that?
So turkey contains tryptophan, which is believed to be responsible for the uncontrollable yawns and sudden snoozes common after a huge family feast. Although I think probably the raise of blood sugar and the overeating is probably a also contributing factor.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Experts say that turkey is not the only food you should blame for your post-meal sleepiness. So we got 8 out of 10 this week. Not bad. Not bad. All right, Joe, you are on the hook for a country for our next Our World segment. Next time we do a free-for-all.
Well, I was thinking of Luxembourg.
Another micronation. Well, not really a micronation in the normal sense. It's actually a fairly influential nation when you think about it. Benelux countries and things like that. So, yeah, we'll do Luxembourg, another European country to knock off the list. Maybe someday we'll do Andorra.
Sounds great.
All right.
Well, thanks, everybody, for joining us this week. We really appreciate you watching us. Give us a like, share, subscribe. Thanks for all the comments you put out tonight. That helps drive the algorithm and gets people to watch. I'm Dave Valente, joining Dan Fishman and Joe Slosky. And we will talk to you all next week on the Political Deep Dive.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Good night, gentlemen.